statistics of 500 million people within 2 months. You know, that's incredible. And I think we are human beings, and when things change very quickly, it's going to be hard to understand and to adapt, because we're human. You know, we live for 70, 80 years, you know, something in 2 years happens so quickly. So whenever people say to me, is generative AI good or is it bad? What is it? I say, well, we're still finding out. It's only 2 years, you know. So that's the unexpected bit. The other cliche, and I'll let you translate in a second, but the other cliche is that, generally speaking, with technology, new technology, it can be electric cars, it can be the internet, or it can be generative AI. Generally speaking, people in the first bit here, they go, wow, it's going to change everything tomorrow. Tomorrow, everything's going to be different. And then tomorrow comes and it's not different. Or it's a bit different. We always exaggerate the short-term impact of technology change. But we also make the mistake of not realizing in the long term the impact it's going to have. You see what I mean? The example I would give would be the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. The Industrial Revolution comes along, steam trains, factories, electricity, and we all think this is amazing, it's going to change everything. But it takes 50, perhaps 100 years for the changes to happen. But what we didn't expect was some of the changes. So, for example, one of the results of the Industrial Revolution was universal education. In the UK and everywhere where you have industrial revolutions, you have to have people who can read and write and do mathematics. So we created schools, free schools for everyone to go to. So suddenly everyone can read, everyone can write. When it first happened, nobody thought that would be one of the results. Steam trains, yes. Factories, yes. But education from the Industrial Revolution, no one expected that. So I think the same with AI. Everyone says we're going to get robots, or we're all going to lose our jobs, or the machines are going to run everything, because that's the hype, the hype. But in practice, it's never that dramatic. But in the long term, we don't know what impact it's going to have. So there'll be unexpected things to come. The wonderful thing about generative AI is that we can all use it easily. You know, we just go on ChatGPT, we put in a prompt, we get an answer. Or you go on, you make a picture, or you make an audio. You know, anyone can use it. It's very easy. And so for the individual, my approach is that everyone should experiment with it. And that first of all, it's probably best to do it for fun. So don't use it, if it's your first time, don't use it for journalism first. First of all, use it for fun. Do something like a recipe, okay? Or do it to plan a holiday. Or do it to make some jokes, for example, okay? So that you start to feel comfortable using it. You say, you learn what it can do and what it can't do, you know? And you learn, for example, the questions that you ask to get the answers that you want. How do you do that? And it's not very difficult, but it's just for you personally. And then you'll start to realize that every use case is different. So, for example, if you're using it to make a recipe, it needs to be accurate, because otherwise you get a horrible mess, you know. So the recipe has to be practical, it has to work. But if it's something like making up a song, well, there's not a right song or a wrong song, there's just the song that you like, okay? And it's the same when you're doing it as journalists. Then you start realizing as an individual, you can use it to help you with your journalism. But if you use it, for example, you ask it, please write a breaking news story, you probably will find it will get it wrong. because most generative AI isn't good at breaking news. When the facts are new, it doesn't know that. It's very good at knowing what has happened in the past, but it's not very good at what's happening now. So again, you can learn that as an individual journalist. So as an individual journalist, I think the best way to think of it is like a very good assistant. It's like somebody's given you an assistant, an intern perhaps, or a secretary, somebody to help you. So it's useful. Don't use it to create a final article or a final film, but use it to help you. So it's really good for research. It's really good for coming up with ideas. You say, I'm doing a story, what are the different perspectives on this? It's really good. You saw examples when Sabrina did her presentation, how people can use it to support their journalism. It can help you with creating graphics, to do coding. It can help you to come up with different ideas for headlines, for example. So it can do lots of things to help make you more efficient and more creative as well. But in the end, you have to make all the decisions. You have to decide, is that true? Is that relevant? Is that interesting? Okay? So you have to make all the judgments. So that's what you do as an individual. And it's really important to remember that you can use AI in every bit of the news production, as Sabrina was explaining the other day. It's not just about robot newsreaders. It's much more about helping you, for example, to find a story. And then it's very helpful for you to think, how can I create this up? Do I want to do a short article or a long article? It's very good. Generative AI is very good at taking your content and putting it in different formats, okay? So that's how you use it as an individual journalist. And this, you asked, so that's as an individual journalist, but if for the news organization, for the company, you need a strategy. You can't just let it happen. We want to be in control of this process. And this is what I think every organization should do, every news organization. The first thing is to make sure that everybody in your newsroom has some knowledge about AI, just like you are with this visit that you're doing. You don't have to know everything, but just have some knowledge. And then you have to very deliberately make sure that you broaden AI literacy. And by that I mean that people have to understand what they can do, but also what they shouldn't do, and what it can't do. And then you have to assign responsibility. You have to have somebody in your newsroom, and I guess it could be you guys, who is responsible for, they're in charge of AI. They are in charge of making sure that your organization is informed, is literate, and then you track it. You make sure you ask people, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Does it work? Yes, it's brilliant. Oh, that's fantastic. Let's tell everyone else to use that tool. Let's make that official. We know that tool is good, it's safe, it's productive. I want everyone to use it, okay? And then when you do use it, you experiment, you test things. You say, does this tool work really well? No, it doesn't, don't use it. Yes, it does. And then you do it again. You don't just say that's it, because you want to see how it works over time. And perhaps because these tools are changing all the time, you need to check that it's still working in 6 months' time. Perhaps there's a better tool that you have to do. So you test, you iterate, and you repeat. I think it's also really important you draw up guidelines. I don't know if you have guidelines in your newsrooms for other things, things like tell the truth, what do you do if things go wrong, that kind of thing. You need the same thing for AI. And the point about guidelines is it's really helpful for the people working there. It's also good for your audience. You're saying, hey, we're using AI in a sensible, responsible way. We've got guidelines. You can trust us. Okay? And the final thing is to collaborate and network, which is kind of what you're doing. You're coming, you're learning from other people, you're talking to each other, you're talking to other news organisations. So you're learning from other people. Because as we said, things are happening so quickly, you can't do it all on your own. You've got to talk to people like me or Sabrina. You've got to talk to other people in the networks to find out what they have done and what they have learned. Okay? So it's always important to remember that yes, the AI, the technology, can help create political disinformation, but it's the humans that actually say, the AI doesn't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to create some fake news. You have to tell it to do that. So the disinformation is always created by human beings, usually politicians, and it's consumed by people, usually because they want to believe it. So that's the problem. The problem is the humans. You can sort out the AI. You could get rid of AI tomorrow, and there'd still be all that disinformation. We don't need government to tell us how to do the journalism. I think that's just a bad idea, because when governments tell you how to do your journalism, they usually weaken the journalism. But I think it's up for us to sort out our own accountability. Like I said, you can have guidelines. You can be transparent. If you use AI in your journalism in a significant way, you should tell people. If you create an image with AI and you pretend that it's a real image, that's not good. But it's up to you to tell people. And I think it's then people's choice. If they know that you are transparent and you're honest and you're accurate, then that's great. I hope they choose your journalism. But that's up to them as citizens to decide, not for the government to decide. Regulating AI generally, that's a different question. So for example, if the police are using AI, or if your government is using AI to decide on your tax, then I think there should be regulation for that. We should know, we have a right to know when AI is being used. We also have a right to, when AI goes wrong, to hold people to account. So I think AI in general, I think should be regulated. Just like we regulate electricity, we regulate water, we should regulate technology, to make sure that it's safe and responsible. But don't regulate the journalism. The real answer is I don't know. We'll see. But I was talking yesterday with a fantastic guy who uses AI to build very clever tools to do investigative data journalism. Okay, tools where you can go. He's trying to create a tool where you can go to different data sets, because if you're investigating something, sometimes the data is in different places that you need to get to. It's in one bank here, then another investment company here or something, and you need to be able to investigate fragmented data sets. So that's quite difficult. But the AI, he's going to build a tool that can do that. And that'll be amazing. It means when you do an investigation into a banking scandal, say, you'll be able to find different sources to get your evidence. But he is also very clear that it's the journalist, as you said, who has to make the judgment. They have to say, I think there's a scandal here. The AI won't tell you there's a scandal. You have to say, hang on, this is wrong. Something's going wrong. We must investigate. And then when you have to tell the AI what to look for. And then you have to decide what is important. The AI says, hey, here are some numbers. Here are some more numbers. And you decide that is a story. That is interesting. So you're absolutely right that the human judgment remains paramount. Now, I would go more than that, that if you can use AI to do simple journalism, the weather, we can use AI to tell us the weather. You can automate that, it's easy. So if you can do that, that means a lot of journalism can be done automatically. So what's the point of you, as a journalist? And I would say it's the human bit. It's the bit where you use your judgment, but also all your other human things, all the other emotional or intellectual ideas, your curiosity. It could be your compassion, that you care about something. You know, if somebody gets hurt, you feel pity for them, emotional for them, you know, or it could be your sense of humor. This is funny. AI does not very good at humor. It's not very good at that because it's not human. So all those human qualities that you have in journalism are going to become more important, not less. This is a paradox. The more AI you have, the more important the human element's going to be. So, for example, one of the biggest attractions of journalism is when you're surprised. You go, wow, I didn't know that. That's new. That's amazing. That's special. That's different. That's a human response. AI can kind of help with that. It can say, hey, something's happened you didn't know about. But it's the human response to it to go, wow. The AI doesn't say, wow. You know, that's a human response. So all those things, from the very intellectual, clever things, you know, that you understand how things work because you're human. AI doesn't understand anything. AI can only process data. You know, it doesn't know the truth. It doesn't care. It doesn't care about anything. It has no curiosity. All those human things are going to become more important. You know, so I think that's really important. That, and I think that's my optimistic case. Is that I hope that the best of the human journalism becomes more important, you know. For the last 30 years, newsrooms have got smaller, and that's partly because of technology. You know, these things, you know, are amazing.
How much percentage do you predict it?
I don't know. I think because I tell you why. It's because it's not just the technology, okay. And the way it works is this: if I've got you in my newsroom, okay, and you're, because of technology, we're 20% more efficient. Great, okay. So do I get rid of 20%? Perhaps not. I actually say, do you know what? You guys, you're my 20%. We're going to create a new product because we need more revenue. So we're going to create a new product, a new whatever website, a new app. You know, you guys have to find some new audiences. So it could be we keep the same people, but you all have to do much more work. And why is that? Because the technology is only part of the story, the efficiency. The real threat with the internet, social media, and AI is that it will take your business away. Because, I mean, for example, the weather. 30 years ago, if I wanted to know the weather forecast, I would have to go to a journalist. I would have to look at a newspaper or a TV or radio, and they would tell me the weather. Now, if I want to know the weather, what do? I look at an app. It can be a weather app. It's nothing to do with the journalist. You know, so that business has been taken away. And when you take it away, you take away the attention, and you take away the advertising revenue. You know, so this has been happening over time. Anyway, people can get their information from other places. They can get it direct from politicians. They don't need you to tell me what a politician said. I can go direct to the politician. You know, the politician can speak to me directly. You know, so, you know, it's called disintermediation is the big word for it. And that's been happening all the time. So we have to, and so it's true. Most newsrooms are going to get smaller unless they can think of other things to do. And that's why I think we can see it happening now, it's been happening for 20 years, that most news organizations don't just do news anymore. You know, they don't just tell you what's happened. They tell you things like what to eat, how to exercise, how to be healthy, how to have a good sex life, where to travel, you know, and they do things like games. They do crosswords and recipes and all those nice things, and they create new products. They create podcasts. You know, they don't just have a newspaper or a website. They have to have a podcast, and they have to be on TikTok. You know, so and that's happening now, and that's going to have to continue in the future. I think the news organization, it's starting to happen now. The news organization is going to be more like your personal information assistant. So you want to know which restaurant to go to, which film to watch. Oh, I also want to know what's happening in Israel. You know, I also want to know what's the best school here for my kids. You know, so you're going to be like a kind of waiter, you know, in a restaurant. What would you like? What would you like? What do you need to know? You know, oh, don't have that. That's bad for you. This is good for you. You know, and I think that's quite a big change. You know, but I think that is where journalism is headed, or at least good journalism. There'll be lots of bad journalism, which is just created by robots or created by people. You know, just clickbait. But I'm talking about the best journalism will be much more centered around the audience, the individual. You know, and AI will help you with that. But in the end, it's a human relationship between you as a journalist, a human being, and the consumer, who is a human being. They're not a digital thing. No.